Good morning, everyone. My name is Nomzamo, and I am a trainee career guidance practitioner from the University of South Africa at the Sunnyside campus. I'd like to welcome you all to our employability event, part two of this event. Without further ado, I'm going to call on our first speaker of the day, who's going to be giving us our opening and welcoming, who is also my colleague, so there is no bio that is needed for this next speaker. Our first speaker of the day is Mr. Makahane Fatwani, who will be giving us the opening of the day and the purpose of this event. Mr. Makahane, the floor is yours.
Good morning, colleagues. I would love to share with you that today is your day, and feel free to say whatever you can say with regards to helping our students to get as much information as possible. We are working together with you for the sake that I want you to understand the purpose of the day. Having given you that background of saying you are feel free to move around and tell our students about how to look for a job. While I was busy sometimes some years back with the workshops like this, job hunting or employability skill in some communities, I come to realize that many people forget that everyone is working in their own way. Even those who are looking for a job, they are working. Because looking for a job is a job itself. I want you people to write this down, that looking for a job is a job itself, which means that the state that is given, it's only catering for a job that is being paid. But unfortunately, because people are looking for a job, it's a job in itself, because putting together the CV, preparing yourself for the interview, preparing yourself and asking all those people, professionals who can help you how to learn how to present yourself in the interview. It's a job itself. Going to the company or an organization that has called you for an interview, it's also things that you need to consider, because you are using money to go up and down, and it's a stressful situation. That is why immediately when you are coming for an interview, it's important to debrief with someone. Why is so important for you to debrief? Sometimes you may feel that you did not do so well, or you did so well. So in that regards, you need to go to somebody and say, this is how I fare in my interview, and this is how I think I've done. These are the questions that I think they've asked me, and so on. So it's not a trains match. Sometimes you can go to several interviews and none of them you are given a call back to say you can come and start the work. It happened to everyone, even the professional like us. When you go to the interview, we are nervous. I always go and debrief with my manager in most of the cases and say to her, I'm going for this interview, or I'm coming from this interview. And then we debrief, and you always even forget the most important parts there in the interview that you think you should have said, because the nervousness, it comes to everyone, because looking for a job for a longer period when you haven't got a job and you got an opportunity to call for the interview, it becomes a nerve-wracking situation. And this, what I'm saying is that these presenters that are here are assisting you to prepare you, to calm you down when you are going for an interview. When I play with Dr. Mlepo, sometimes I say to him, there's not even a single job that I can go for now that I cannot get the job. Why? The confidence that I've built over the years has given me the opportunity to think, to take control of the interview. Now that I'm not looking for a job desperately, I just go there, and then while I'm there, I then try to give them all what I think is what they are looking for. Am I still audible? Colleagues?
Yes, you are.
Okay, yes. So having said that, I think without wasting much time, because we have got a full buffet of the different people who will be teaching you and grooming you about the issue of how to conduct yourself in the interview, how to go about looking for a job. I will take it and leave it here and say, feel free to give us, our students and everyone who's attending as much information as possible, because we are also learning in the process. I will say I thank you with regards to this, and waiting to hear much from you guys to dish out your buffet that you had for us. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Makahan, for that opening and welcoming and purpose of the day. Now, I am very pleased and very excited to call on our first speaker of the day. Ms. Mashishi is currently a self-employed individual living in Switzerland. She was the group executive human capital at Altron until September 2020. She was formerly the group executive corporate services for DBSA. Prior to joining DBSA, Ms. Mashishi was the human resource executive for Bright South Africa, as well as the head of learning and development for Investec Bank Ltd. Ms. Mashishi is extensively experienced in strategic people development, influencing and executing on strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome onto the platform Ms. Mashishi. Ms. Mashishi, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I feel like I'm a model now while you're introducing me. Thank you so much, and Nomzamo, and welcome everyone. I'm so happy to be speaking to everyone. And I won't waste a lot of time because I've been given 15 minutes. I've never been known to speak for just 15 minutes. So I was given the topic to talk about career assessment and planning, and understanding what this program is about. I thought, let me go back and start from the beginning, because people's careers are so different and they're so individual. You know, there is no kind of one way or linear way. So the way that my career has spun out is probably going to be different from how your career has worked or has spun out. So let me start by first talking about the things that you need to do before you go to an interview, because there is so much to prepare before you go to get to that interview, to sit in front of the interview time or interview desk with the prospective employer. So there are two things for me that are very key. And one thing is really around the mindset and your psychology around work, or around a job, or around a career. So for me, it's important to firstly know your story, who you are, you know, what are you about, who are you, you know, what are the kind of things that you like and not like, what makes you tick, what are you selling deep down? I mean, you might just have completed your certificate or your degree or whatever. You might have 2 years of working experience. You might have worked as a volunteer somewhere, but somewhere deep down, who you are is going to shine when you are sitting in front of that prospective employer. And more, 90% out of 100, that's really what the prospective employer read. Certainly when I sit and people come for interview, I read them before they could even open their mouth. And you could read the mindset, you could read where this person is at. The more calm you are, the more confident you are about who you are, what you are about, the better. Because then part of what you're going to say, you just finish selling your story. So it is very, very important that you know what is your story. You know, that whole adage about, you know, you are in a lift and you meet a very famous person and you tell them about yourself. What are you going to say? So that for me is the beginning of what you practice about yourself, about who you are. That's the first thing. The second thing for me is, you know, you need to also start building your portfolio. Because once you've got your degree, once you've got your diploma, once you've got your certificate, that's just part of what can tell people the school you've gone to and all of the courses you've done. What it's not telling people is, it's not telling people the diverse skill set that you've got. And when I talk about diverse skill set, I'm talking about things like, I mean, you would know that the World Health Organization has done a research and shown that almost 30% of the skills we have now are going to be redundant in 2025. So what that means is that we continuously have to reskill ourselves, right? And when I talk of skills, I'm talking about things like analytical thinking, reasoning, problem solving, technology design and programming, leadership and social influence, complex problem solving, critical thinking. Those things are what the skills that are going to be needed for the future. There's a list of them. If you Google the type of skills that are being said by World Skills Organization, that's what they will show you some of those skills. And that is really what employers are looking for. They don't want to, well, they do, they don't, you don't necessarily have to tell them that you've done psychology at University of Johannesburg, because they'll see that in your CV. What they won't see is, how have you applied your problem solving skills? Where have you applied it? How have you applied your critical thinking abilities? Where have you done it? You know, so those are, you need to start building your portfolio, making sure that you diversify as much skill set as possible. The key thing also is that, remember that I'm not sure now, we're sitting at 46% unemployed rate in South Africa. So what that means is that the market will become smaller and the supply is a lot. That's just basic economics. And therefore, the more diverse skills you have, the better your chance of really exploring other opportunities that are there, right? So firstly, know yourself, and secondly, build your portfolio all the time. You build your portfolio all the time, especially during COVID now, while it's lockdown, and this is the time for you to be exploring and making sure that your portfolio is built. You put it together. You look at, you talk to friends who have done certain things that you haven't done before. Learn from them. So many ways of how you can build portfolio. You don't necessarily have to go through study to build your portfolio or to learn new things or new trade. So the last two things that I'd like to talk about now is really, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to share my screen. Let's see if I'm be able to share my screen. I just have 2 slides that I'd like to share with you. Cool. So as I said, there are 2 types of how career paths are, are deployed, or how people go through their career in life. And like I said, my career and I use my one as an example because the one that I'm very, very familiar with. So my career started off as a very linear career path, and somewhere when I was in my early 30s, I'm 53 now. When I was in my early 30s, I began to realize that, the environment was providing opportunity for me to not follow a linear career path, because a career path was really very limiting in opportunity. And the career path is really when you get into a job and you start off as an administrator and you finish as an administrator and you have to be an administrator for more than 5 years or 6 years. And then you have to, I can't even remember the titles that are, after an administrator, you become probably a supervisor for the administrators. When you finish, you then become if you want to go into HR like I did, you then become a junior administrator, senior administrator, and then you become an HR business partner or a business HR consultant. All of those, you stack up the ladder. And for me, in my opinion, that was a very much linear direction. It's a very redundant way of thinking about the concept of work, because work can be so broad. It does not necessarily have to be one step over the other. There's no space for change. If your mindset is on a linear career path, you can't even see other opportunities that are in front of you, because what your career is basically being defined by the title in that organization. It's being defined and monopolized by other people in an organization. So a linear career path, as I said, it limits your opportunity. It also holds you back, because you only think that all there is to do or all there is to be is that next job in that organization. And if you only just open your eyes, you will be able to not see. If you can't be able to open your eyes, you will not be able to see what other is there. I must also say, though, that the linear career path is usually a much more safer way, because you are in an employed environment, 9 to 5. I don't know for how long, until COVID comes, and then they start to trench you. So it's secure, but it's not necessarily safe. So this is one way of how we look at a career. I don't particularly like this mindset of a linear career path, because once you go into the world and once you realize opportunities, you see that there's a lot to do. Sorry. Okay. And then there's a non-linear career path. And a non-linear career path, as you can see the picture, it shows confusion. And what it basically says is that in your career span, there is a time where your career is going to dip down a little bit, go to the side a little bit, and probably go up again. And that's just part of how life works. And this shows your individuality, goes back to that point of knowing who you are. Because if you know who you are, then you know what are the things that you're good at. I've seen people being HR individuals and moonlighting on Saturday and Sunday, and becoming, I don't know, bricklaying, knowing how to lay bricks, learning another skill. So in this kind of career path, everything is for the taking. Anything that you can learn where you can begin to start to diversify your skill set, this is the time to do it. If there is no time to kind of waste, you are ongoing, you're learning on an ongoing basis, you are learning continuously. And these are some of the skills that when you're sitting in front of an interview, that's what you actually say to people. I've done a technology design during my spare time of this particular app that I've done, whatever it is that you've done. In this way, you are able to write your own CV. It is dependent on you. It is not dependent on what is the next title or the next level in the organization. You are able to explore different career possibilities. I must say, this kind of way can be done. It's not for the faint-hearted, because you really have to be able to take risks, be able to take calculated risks, be able to know, hey, tomorrow is another day. Tomorrow is another day. I'm going to be learning a new thing and learn how to see possibilities, learn how to see a gap where you can go in, learn how to read a room, to be the first one to raise your hand. So this is a very much involved career path. And the more you do this, the more you'll realize that at a certain time in your career, you would have built a brand for yourself that, when you build a brand and you leave a brand, sometimes you don't even have to go and look for a job. You create your own job, because that's really the end goal of where you want to be ultimately. Yeah. I think this is all that I have prepared for you. I'm going to stop sharing now. Let me see where I am. Okay, cool. Am I back? Nomzamo?
Yes.
Okay. Nomzamo, that's really the 2 points that really I've really prepared for the 15 minutes time that I've been given. Really knowing yourself, knowing your story, build your portfolio, diverse your portfolio, and begin to build a non-linear career. Do not have the mindset of a career that comes one on top of the other. And that's really how I found that my career has kind of opened lots of opportunity for me to be able to find myself where I am now. So I thank you, everybody, for inviting me. I thank you, Nomzamo, and I wish everybody all great things and all the luck in what they do. Oh, and the last thing, please find a mentor. You have to have a mentor. A mentor can be anybody who you respect, who you can learn from. It can be a priest, it can be a past teacher, it can be your mother, it can be a friend, it can be anybody who you will be very comfortable in sharing, your life journey with, and you can learn from them. But you have to have a mentor. You cannot go through life without somebody that you bounce off ideas with, because we learn. We are an ecosystem. We all learn from each other, and we can support and help one another. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Mashishi. I think as I was listening on in your presentation, there were little nuggets of information that I took to add on to my container of knowledge. And something that stood out for me was remembering that in the field of being professional and when you're actively looking for work, or once you're presented with an opportunity to join an organization, is to always remember that you are a brand and you need to carry yourself as one, because you will always be remembered for everything that you did in that given time and in that space. And there's a say that the work should speak for itself. So you want people to always say, oh yeah, I remember this person because they came into the space and they did this, and forever leave a mark and stamp the place that I was here, and I cannot be replaced. So thank you so much for that wonderful and enlightening presentation. I think as a presenter and as an attendee, I think we also need to have conversations with the fear that comes from one not willing to let go and explore different careers, because I saw in your presentation you spoke about exploring different careers, and unfortunately in our country there's a scourge of unemployment. So whatever you get, you hold on to, not because you enjoy it or love it so much, but because of the fear that what if I let go of this and I'm not able to find a replacement for it. So I think those are conversations that we should look into having on how to deal with that and how to let go of that fear. But thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Now,
do you want me to stay on longer, or if there are questions, or what do you want me to do?
Yes, please.
I'm not in winter, I'm in summer, so I'm going to enjoy my summer.
Please do not leave us, stay with us. So as the program is looking, my colleague who posted it on the chat box for our attendees, we're going to have the first speaker, which is you, and then we're going to move on to our next speaker. After our next speaker, we're going to open up a Q&A session. So what I kindly ask from all of our speakers for today is, after your presentation, please kindly head over to the chat box and just quickly read the comments and reviews that you're getting. And if it's possible, if there is a question typed out that you can quickly respond to via the chat box, you can quickly respond to that question while we wait for us to actually have our Q&A session. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, a quick reminder, my wonderful colleague, Ms. Itimeleng Makwane, who is very active on the chat box, is posting our evaluation forms, which we kindly please ask that you take the time to fill out, because this is what helps us improve on our services and on the job that we give to our students as a service. Without your reviews, without your comments, we are blind, and we need you, because we do this for you, and we intend on always giving you quality service. So please, a few minutes of your time to just quickly fill out our evaluation is what we ask for. Now, after that enlightening first presentation, I'm going to head over to our next speaker of the day. Ms. Tina Malekwa has qualifications in a master's degree in career construction from the University of Pretoria, an honors in psychology, a B.Ed honors from the University of South Africa, an HRM from the University of Johannesburg, and a BA degree from Uni Limpopo. She has experience as a leader in employment services, and you also might know her as a student counselor at the University of South Africa, which she has been for 7 years. She also is an employment service practitioner from ESP2 at the Department of Labor, and her passions are counseling and public speaking. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome to the platform, Ms. Tina Malekwa. Ms. Malekwa, we are all ears.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the time that has been allotted to me to share interview preparation skills. Before I start, I want to really appreciate the speaker before me of the preview that she has given in terms of one, understanding themselves, and also for the warm welcome from Mr. Makagane for us to know that when we are also doing this interview preparation or attending this presentation, you are also on a job, you are sort of engaging, you are working. Interview preparation, it's a mammoth of task, as Mr. Makagane has mentioned. So I would like you guys to allow me, before I start with my presentation, to share the story of Juliet. Before I share, I want to just check if the presentation is visible that side, Mrs. Millicent. Is it visible to our audience?
Yes, ma'am, we can see your presentation.
All right. Juliet was a 23-year-old woman who graduated with a Bachelor of Education. And when she graduated, there were no opportunities of teaching employment within her province. So she moved to another province, hoping to get employment. But for the 3 weeks that she stayed there, she could not find any opportunity of teaching, and she came back to her location. And as soon as she came back to her province, she arrived there on a Saturday and immediately said, I'm not going to give up. On Monday, I'm going back to start searching within our area. So she went back. The first place on Monday where she landed was at their municipal offices. When she went to the municipal office, just at the notice board, she saw a post advertised, temporary teacher post, interviews Tuesday, time 10 o'clock. You can bring in your CV on the day of the interview. Of course, she was excited, but stunned to say, wow, a coincidence. She took a picture of that advert and continued more with her search. She took a taxi, went to town, and then she searched for opportunities there, but she couldn't find them. But then she remembered, I couldn't find anything amongst the list of companies that I've put on my list. Let me just go home. In that afternoon, Juliet remembered that that school where I've seen the post, it is in the village next to our location. I need to quickly just find transport to go there because I don't have much information about the transport there. Then she remembered Mr. Mashamba. Mr. Mashamba was a teacher at that school. So she went to Mr. Mashamba, gathered information. In part of the information that she inquired from Mr. Mashamba was to know who is the principal of the school and also the HOD of that school. And she indicated that I'm asking this information because I'm interested to go for the interview, which is happening tomorrow. But above that, Mr. Mashamba, do you know of any transport to get there? And Mr. Mashamba shared with her that, yes, there is transport to go to that school. There is a bus that leaves our location at 6 o'clock. You need just to be there because that is the only bus that gets there. Of course, Juliet went home, prepared her CV, looked into her CV and started to just do some exercise around understanding the duties of a teacher and an English teacher for that matter, and to understand the content of English language. But she had a challenge to say, what am I going to put on? What would be the dress code that is going to be required there? But quickly she said, I've got just this smart casual clothes. I'll just keep it semi-formal. And then she prepared herself. The following morning, 6 o'clock, Juliet was already taking the bus to Diketo High School. She arrived there at 7:15. She went to the receptionist. She was sent to a room. Her CV was collected there by the receptionist. And while she was waiting in that room, other interviewees came. The first one came at 8 o'clock. The second one came at 9 o'clock. The last one came at 9:20. The last attendee started to talk to them. First of all, she introduced herself. Hello, guys. Hello. My name is Monette. Oh, you are here for the interviews. Sure. I'm a bit anxious, but you know what? She started to share her story of her being one of the people that was working at that school. I was working at this school, and it was quite pleasant to work at this school. You know what? The learners at this school are so well behaved, and the teachers liked me. Above everything is that the principal always gave me opportunities to really venture into things that learners did not know. I really enjoyed it. I was the one that was coordinating the other day, World AIDS Day with the learners. Sure, it was quite pleasant. You can imagine what was going on in Juliet's head. You can imagine what she felt when she heard Monette relating her story. But as the saying goes, do not count your chicks before, or your chickens before they hatch. Just as something that we are going to start with, this is Tina Molekwa, who's going to be presenting to you. Interview preparation. Who is interview preparation meant for? And what are these interviews? Interviews are just forums where an interviewer and interviewee engage in so as to share information. The interviewer are interested to know you further than the CV, because the CV, it's not necessarily giving full information. But further than that, there are other specific questions that the interviewer are preparing so that they will get to know you better and to be convinced that you will be the person to sit for that position. And in a way, you are binding yourself as you go to that interview to say, I'm capable of. In this case, if you are like Juliet, she will sort of emphasize that she's capable of handling learners that are misbehaving. She's capable of handling a big class that is not having proper discipline, and she'll be able to administer discipline in proper ways that are in line with regulations. And she would maybe address issues of saying she is good in this subject because of 1, 2, 3, 4. So in an interview, you are mainly going to convince the interviewers. You are mainly going to market yourself because, as I've mentioned, there were 4 candidates. You will be amongst those people, and you would have to make a point that you leave the interviewers with a mark that you are the one that they need for that job opportunity. All of us, before an interview, we get invitation, and that invitation might come in the form of a call. So in the event that you receive a call, it is important that you learn to calm down. Yes, the first experience is that you get excited. And in the midst of excitement, you might forget to listen carefully and to be able to ask questions. But when the caller has dropped, you might not have a chance even to see where was the caller calling you from. So I'm saying, yes, express excitement, but quickly calm down and ask the following questions with the intentions or with the intention of writing important information. Where was the caller calling you from? Because majority of us apply to different organizations, you might forget that you have applied at the Department of Agriculture. So asking the caller to say which company is that is important. Ask them their name, the contact details, and even further than that, the position for which they are calling you for. The other important thing, we are in COVID-19, we are getting into the new normal, which is now most companies would want to go online, even in terms of interviews. So ask them whether they would want you to go to the company site, or they would, which means going for face-to-face, or they would want to interview online. When they've told you what type of interview it's going to be, if it's an online interview, make sure that you prepare. I'm sorry. If they've called you for the interview, it's important that you prepare before the interview. As you have seen that the interview, or you have asked them what company it is, go make your research to understand the business of that company. For instance, if it's a government department that is dealing with agriculture, find out within the department that you'll be called, and within the section where you are going to work, and the position that you're going to hold, that company or that business, what is it that is their main core business? If it's a government department, also find information. Who is the minister within that department? And if it's a private company, who is the CEO of that company? Because they want you to be aware as to who is handling the whole business, and you will be aware. And in that way, you'll be showing interest and understanding of an environment that you'll be working in. When it comes to job position, it is important that you prepare. If you see a job position, go back to the advert that you once saw. In that, you'll be able to see the duties, the roles of, for instance, if it's an admin position or a sales position, you will be able to see the roles of that person. In this case, I say maybe you're a student advisor. You will know the role of a student advisor is to receive students, to give them information about different types of modules and qualifications that are available. Know your CV. To know your CV, I mean, it's important that you have a better structure of how your CV is. Go and study it and tailor it, exercise around it to say, if I happen to be asked the question, tell us about yourself. If you know your CV, then you will project it the way you have written it. Meaning you will start, I've done grade 12 at this particular school. In your case, it might be the Ghetto High School. And qualification, be at education or Bachelor of Education. Work experience, you might mention to say, I've worked at an organization or an NGO, if you haven't worked maybe at a different company. So knowing your CV helps you to confirm to the interviewers what you have written on the CV. And in that way, you will be projecting the fact that you are sending correct information, or you are telling same information. Know your dress code. If you know the type of company or the organization where you have been called, make research to say, what is the dress code there? Of course, for some companies, a dress code for normal work might be casual, but you might find during their interviews, they would want you to either come in with a formal wear or semi-formal, smart casual or casual. So just make research around the dress code, because it has a final mark as our previous speaker has mentioned, that you leave a mark with that company, starting even with your interviews. The tools that one should prepare before an interview. For instance, if you are called for an online interview, it is important now that we are in COVID, during COVID, that you prepare the room where you are going to get interviews. Make sure that your room is a quiet room. Negotiate the space with your family in terms of quietness. Ask them to put, if it's children, away from the room so that there will be no background noise during your interview. Make sure that you've got enough light. Lighting in that room should be enough that the interviewers will be able to see you. You can imagine, I want to make this example. You are in the interview room. I hope all of you can see me. Can you see me? And when I look at myself there, I just see a picture of somebody that is wanting to appear as being anonymous. But if you want the interviewers to be able to see you, allow and do a test around the lighting. I hope this can assist somebody to really realize what is important for the interviewers, to be able for them to see you and see the kind of candidate that they will be working in. I'm going to switch it off. It's important also that you also check, now that you'll be using your laptop, make sure that you've got enough power. Charge your phone, charge your battery, that it is on full. Charge your phone in case you lose touch through the laptop. Make sure that you have enough airtime and enough data. Around your place, if network is a problem, try to arrange in time to go to a place during that day of the interview, or even before that, arrange for a different venue so that you would have better network connection during the interview. Remember, investing in time for your interviews will assist you in getting that opportunity, which will be sort of, for others, it's a first year employment, or it's an investment for your family, in that if you get that job, you would have made a better arrangement if you have made an investment by going to a place where network connections are much better. Remember, we are many who are looking for a job, and sometimes interviewers might be lenient, others might not be lenient in terms of saying, oh, you've got a network problem, we will call you the other time, we will connect with you the other time. Business is rushing. Face-to-face interviews. In the event that you are called for a face-to-face interview, prepare the following: a face shield, a mask, and sanitizer. Why? You are preparing this for your own sake. Remember, when I told you the story of Juliet, Monette just pitched in. I can just imagine Monette took off her mask because she wanted to relate and she was excited about her story. So if you did not bring in your mask or your face shield, first your mask, you forgot it. The challenge would be, you would be one who will contract, or you will put your life at risk, or even the life of others at risk. But over and above that is that if you are called for a face-to-face interview, making an investment of just buying a face shield, it gives you an opportunity. If they say, with the distance that we have in the room, you are allowed to take off your mask and then you can start talking through your face shield. It helps them to have a face behind that CV, and for you to be able to express yourself and they be able to buy from your face. All right, remember, it's not just the face, but also the content of what you'll be sharing with the interviewers. Before the interviews, while you are still at your place, either at home or at your rest, practice alone or with someone questions that are needed for the interviews, or possible questions that might arise during the interview. Remember, there isn't any interview where they will tell you these are the questions we are going to ask you. However, we do that we go in with risk. You risk your life to just say, I'm going to throw myself in there. Whatever they throw at me, I will try and catch it. But exercises of trying to catch the question are, there are certain possible questions like, tell us about yourself. So if you take a time to practice, if they say, tell us about yourself, where should I start? Do I start with my grade 12 or do I start with my degree? It will depend on the level of qualification that you want to do. The other thing is, when you practice those questions, be aware that they might not come, like for instance, tell us about yourself, might not come as tell us about yourself. They might say to you, what is it that you think you will bring in the company that will make you to be the best employee of that time? So that question in itself, you are going to tell them about your studies, qualification, your work experience, and other things that you deem or fit for that type of position. They might ask you a question of how do you handle stress? Do you prefer to work with a group or alone? So if you look at those questions, those are just guidelines so that you can prepare yourself. At the interview, all of us for any interview, including this one, myself included, we do get anxious. We experience stress. So when you experience stress or you get anxious, it's important that you calm down, you relax. I like it. Some of the interviewers would say to you, relax. Yes, it's because they see you are on your feet, you are shaking. Different people respond differently in terms of calls for interviews, or their bodies react differently when they become stressed. Other people say, with me, I sweat. My hands become so sweaty. My armpits become so sweaty. The other people even struggle to talk when they are called for an interview. But others say, when I go to the interview, I find my hands shaking. And at times I'm not even able to hold it. So today, let's now think of what exercise can you make. The breathing exercise is one of the exercises that when you do it and you do it correctly, you will calm yourself. Breathe in a lot of air through your nose, and you breathe slowly through your mouth. I'm going to open the video just quickly to show you how we do it. I hope you can all see me. I hope you saw that. What I mean is that you breathe in a lot of air, you pump your muscle, it even goes up. But then when you blow your air, you don't blow it all at once, like you blow it like as if you are whistling. You say, the calming effect of that, the shaking of hands, the voice not coming out, you will see yourself more relaxed. And in that way, the content of what you'd want to share with the interviewers will sort of come across easily. Drink water. Water with the oxygen, it is able to calm your nerve. It is able to even calm your mind. Think of a joke. You know, laughter has an element of calming us down. So sometimes you're not aware that joke, why when I'm around these people, I find myself so relaxed, is because you might be sharing jokes that sort of makes you to be excited. And when we become excited and calm, we are able to speak well. The things that you should avoid when you are going for the interview, one of them, avoid loud conversation during the interview. Yes, sometimes you arrive at that interview, you find people like Monette who are excited. Even sometimes they are not excited, they are even anxious. So they want to talk about other things and many things that might be related. But the only challenge while you are seated there, interviewers might pass. And as they pass, they find that you are there, you are Juliet, you are also engaging too much. And that might give a wrong picture about you even before you get into the interview. So let's avoid loud talks around that room. Yes, you might have just small talks, but avoid loud conversations. It's important also that you do not rehearse questions for the interviews. Just 5 to be called into the interview. Try by all means that you calm down yourself down while you allow your mind to get ready and you are trying to put your nerves down. Continue to do the exercises. If the job requires you to know more about principles of that work, in private sector they will talk about customer service. Just know those principles and prepare yourself. In the interview, relax. In the interview, listen to the questions. Where you did not understand, feel free to ask for clarity. In the interview, answer your questions fully. When I mention fully, sometimes they will ask you a question and say why. When they've given you the why question, expand as much as you can. I would go also for an example of a question. They say, give us the Microsoft platforms that you know, or Microsoft offices that you know. Don't just stick to, I know Word. You might be knowing Excel, PowerPoint, you know maybe 6 of them. If you know 6 of them, mention them. Why am I saying mention them? Because you are sitting there, you are in competition. You mention 6, the other person, you mention 2, the other person mentions 6, the other person mentions 3. Who do you think the interviewers will sort of pick? They would pick the one who tried by all means to mention most of them, because in that way it says to the interviewers, you are giving them an opportunity to even open you up to other opportunities of work in the work environment. Like if it's, you said PowerPoint, oh, she has mentioned that she knows PowerPoint, then she is getting there. So in a nutshell, let me say, Dr. Nelson Mandela said, it always seems impossible. Before I do that, before I go to Dr. Nelson Mandela's story, let me mention to say, at the end of your interview, make sure that you ask a question relevant, like, when do you think it's the time that they would be needing to appoint a person? So, Dr. Nelson Mandela said, it always seems impossible until it is done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Malekwa. That was an enchanting presentation. If there's something that I picked up from that entire presentation, was the power of storytelling, because from the get-go, when you opened up your presentation by using Juliet's story to introduce us on what you were going to unpack for us, you had me there. So it is very important to remember the power of storytelling and to understand the impact that context has when it comes to a person sharing a certain story. Now, even though we are running just a bit over time, I would like to thank our guest for staying with us and participating on the chat box. That my colleague, Ms. Tumeleng Makwane, is hands-on, sharing information, sharing slideshows, sharing evaluation links with you. Please keep your eyes open, and if there's anything that you can pick up and save from what she is sharing, you are allowed to do so. Before I move on to our last 2 speakers, I'm going to open up the floor for a mini Q&A session, right? We've had 2 speakers already. Our first presenter was Ms. Mashishi. Our second presenter was Ms. Malekwa. So we're going to open up for a Q&A session. And the proceedings of the Q&A session, as I said, you use the emojis at the top of your screen to raise your hand. Once selected, I will call out your name. You will be allowed to come onto the platform and proceed to ask your question. Our guest speakers are still here with us and ready to answer those questions. Tabile, you may unmute your mic and proceed to ask your question.
So the question was, how do I stop doubting myself? So the key for me, how I did it was preparation. There's nothing that beats preparation before you go to not just an interview, but anything that you attempt to do. So going through all of the points that that Molekwa has been saying about preparing, doing your research, studying your CV, studying all of that, anticipating the questions that you're going to be asked, and then days before, 2 days before, get a friend to role play. Ask you, act as the interviewer, and you being asked questions, and you practice. Practice is the best way of beginning to relieve the tension that you might be feeling. I also like the idea of breathing. Breathing is really the space between what your mind is playing and how you actually calm yourself down. So when you breathe, you release the tension, and then you are able to calm down. So those for me are the two things that I can say. So you can't doubt yourself if you have practiced, if you know what you're going to say and you've practiced it over and over and over again to the point where you actually know it, you know, and tell the truth. You know, once you're in an interview, tell the truth, because when you can't go wrong when you tell the truth. When you tell lies, that's when you become anxious. But if you tell the truth of things you've done, then you can't go wrong.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tabile, and thank you so much, Ms. Mashishi, for taking that question.
There's a question that came in the chat box, and the question is, Ms. Molekwa, you told us that we should prepare and start with our maybe grade 12. However, Ms. Mashishi mentioned that you should not recite your CV. But maybe I need to bring in an understanding to say, when you are called for an interview, all of us go to interviews given our background and also the type of position that you're going. If, for instance, you're just a school leaver, or you've just graduated, majority of the people that graduate, I'm just talking under correction, you'd find that you don't have any work experience. So in the event that you don't have work experience, for some of you in that space, telling them that you have done this particular type of subject, like in the case of Juliet, she will narrate to say she did well in accounting and English, so she got a distinction. So in that way, it's something that emphasizes then supporting it with, I've just graduated and I've did my postgraduate certificate in education measuring in English. So speaking about your metric also depends on what level of position are you applying. For somebody that has been in the field, of course, as we go along and we climb the ladders, we start to check out certain positions. Like in this case, you listen to my interview. I'm a teacher by profession and experience. But with this interview, I said, let me not talk more about this. I'll concentrate on employability positions that I've been in. I've mentioned the Department of Labor. I've mentioned the Real Global Business Solutions. Why? So that I'm presenting for the presenter. Exactly. They've got my CV, but I just want to catch them on that particular type of a job. So with what Ms. Mashishi has mentioned, she's just, in a way, I'm thinking, check the type of opportunity you have been called for and concentrate and hit it straight. Thank you.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you to both our speakers. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking those two questions. Ladies and gentlemen, our Q&A session, our first Q&A session has ended. I'm going to call on our third speaker for today. Ms. Kunika is an assistant director in Project Specialist at the Department of Higher Education and Training. She is in Career Development Services. She's a registered counselor with the Health Profession Council with more than 10 years worth of experience in career counseling. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome Ms. Gwinika.
Thank you so much for the invitation, and I would also like to thank our previous presenters. I really learned a lot. Even as someone working in the field, I actually learned a lot from the information that they provided. Okay. Okay, I seem to be struggling with the slide. Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so I was requested to come and present on expectations of the interviewer during the interview process. So from the beginning, you might be asking yourself, why do we need to attend interviews? I mean, I have the qualification, I have maybe the experience, but why do I need to go for interviews? Well, the reason why we go for interviews is that it's a vetting process for both the interviewer and the interviewee. Now, most people who go for interviews, in their minds, they're thinking that, okay, I need to go and prove myself to this company to show that I have the skills, the experience, the personality that they want. But again, even you as someone who's looking for a job, you need to go into the interview process thinking about whether or not this organization or this company will provide you with what you need for your career success. Now, during this process, what is important is that you need to have adequate knowledge about your career values. So your career values would be those things that are non-negotiables for you when it comes to the organizations that you want to work for. So it could be things like, for example, somebody might say that I want to work for a company that will allow me to grow. Another person might say, I want to work for an organization where it's fun. It's not a serious, tight type of environment, but it's a fun environment where I get to interact with my colleagues and all of that. For someone who is an introvert, for them, they might say, I can't work in an open plan. I need to work in an office where I'm by myself on my computer, doing whatever it is that you will be doing. So those are your career values. They differ from person to person, but when you are in the interview, you also need to check whether this is the environment where you are most likely to thrive, where you will enjoy, working. So when we are approaching the interview process, our previous speaker actually touched on this, but I will touch on it from the perspective of what will the interviewer be looking for. So it's important for you to research the organization that you will be interviewing with. Now, an employer will be looking at whether or not you know where you are, you know what kind of work they're doing, you understand the role that you will be playing and all of that. Another thing is that it's important for you to be punctual. So things like the location, you need to know beforehand where you're going. And another thing that they mentioned as well was the point where we are now in a pandemic and a lot of organizations prefer to do online interviews. So you need to have all those login details on time, log in maybe 10 to 15 minutes early. If it's a face-to-face interview, arrive at least 10 to 15 minutes early, because in some cases you may find that some candidates have cancelled or some interviews went quicker than expected. So they might call you in. So if you are late or if you are aiming to be there at the time that you're supposed to interview, you may find that people are actually waiting for you. And it also gives an impression to the employer that, you know what, we may have a problem with time management with this one. Or it can also be that maybe you are not taking the whole interview process seriously. One other thing that they also mention is the preparation for the interview. An employer can tell whether or not you have prepared yourself. And I think they also mentioned that things like your nerves, yes, it's normal to be anxious during something like an interview, but sometimes you can tell whether a person has not prepared or if they prepared by how anxious they are. People who have experience with working with people can actually tell whether or not you did take the time to prepare yourself, to look at your CV. You may find that maybe you heard that it's important to have a portfolio, and now you've come with this big file with so many papers, but then it's not organized. That says a lot to an employer. So things like, for example, conducting a mock interview, like they mentioned, with getting someone to come and act as an interviewer, those are the things that can actually help you to be able to prepare yourself and appear as someone who takes the job seriously. Another thing that's important is the dress code. They spoke about, dressing for the job that you are applying for, and also, knowing what kind of attire people in that organization are most likely to wear. So, an employer can actually tell a lot about you by how you're dressed. If you are dressed too casually, to an employer, it can say that you don't take the job seriously, you don't take yourself seriously. And remember, they also mentioned the issue of competition. So sometimes you may find that you actually meet the requirements for the interview and also the requirement for the job itself. But things, small things like how you presented yourself can actually work against you, because, as people, we look at the outward appearance, we look at how you present yourself to us. So just in addition to what was said about the online interview, so preparation again is important. And with the online interview, you can also do a dry run. Just switch on your computer. If it's Zoom, if it's Microsoft Teams, just go through, see if you can connect. If you want to share documents, make sure that they are there. Try and see if you can maybe sort of like do a dry run, so that when the interview starts, you are actually prepared. So set up the space as they mentioned. Make sure that you have negotiated with your family or whoever will be in that space, that during this time I will need the place to be quiet. I would need it to be conducive for, the interview that I'm about to take. Another thing is the dress code. Just because you're at home or just because you're not physically at the organization doesn't mean you can dress anyhow. Make sure that you dress appropriately, you look presentable. And another thing is the connectivity. Make sure that the area where you are has reliable connectivity, limit the background noise, be on time, and communicate with the person who invited you for the interview if you are having any challenges. Last thing is that execute your plan. So just go into the interview, be yourself, be confident, answer the questions that are being asked, and do all you can to make sure that you present yourself well. So during the interview, it's important to switch off your mobile phone. So don't have anything that might distract you. That says to any interviewer again that you are not prepared and you're not taking the whole process seriously. Wait until you're offered a chair before you're sitting down. Before you sit down. So that's basically good manners. Another thing, if you're doing an online interview, make sure that you have muted your mic when you're not talking, because anything can happen. And again, it also says that you have good communication skills, because we know in communication, if it's face to face, when someone is talking, you keep quiet and listen to what they're saying. So even something as small as just muting your mic can actually tell an interviewer that you are giving them a chance to speak and you are attentive to whatever it is that they're going to communicate to you. Greet the interviewers by their title. If it's a miss, say miss. If it's Mr., say Mr. If it's a doctor, say doctor. So what does this say also? It says to the interviewer that you have good listening skills, because sometimes, you know, in the midst of an interview, when people are introducing themselves, you may, you know, not listen carefully to what they're saying, but you know, going back and saying, Dr. Kwinika, you mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4 when you were asking this question, or when you were introducing the organization. That says to the person that, oh yeah, this person was listening. But more importantly, it's about respect. To say, don't call people by their first name. Just call them Miss, Mr., Doctor, and all of that. Another thing that's important is that during the interview, speak clearly and audibly. You don't want a situation where people keep on saying, sorry, can you please repeat that? What were you saying? And all of that. So it also takes us back to the idea that during the interview, you also have to manage your nerves, because some people, when they're anxious, you know, they mumble, you can't hear what they're saying. So if you manage yourself, so it's all about self-regulation, breathing, like they said, you should breathe, and also, you know, being calm, just trying to calm yourself down during the interview so that people can hear what you've got to say. Okay, these were actually mentioned by the previous speaker. Answer questions as fully as you can. Represent yourself well. Ask the interviewer to clarify any question. Don't attempt to answer things you don't understand. Drink water if you feel nervous. Again, make sure that you manage yourself during that process. Be mindful of your posture. Your posture says a lot about how confident you are. So sit up straight, and, you know, when you speak, look confident, and, you know, provide the answers with confidence. Listen, don't talk too much. Make sure that you understand the question. Sometimes what I do when I go for an interview, or when I'm in an environment where I need to give answers, where I'm being tested on something, after the speaker, you know, pauses, I also pause for a bit and then provide the answer. That gives you an opportunity to process the information a bit, but to also breathe and provide the answer with confidence. So be authentic, be focused, be confident, and be concise. Don't mumble, don't say too many things that are unnecessary. Just stick to what you're being asked and answer the questions as fully as you can, as we mentioned. So avoid bad habits, things like, for example, biting your nails, things like interrupting people when they talk, things like, you know, some people don't have a poker face. So we know in the mind, you might be thinking whatever, but try and keep that poker face. Don't make any funny faces to show that you are disagreeing with people and all of that. Be respectful at all times. Ask insightful questions. We know that there's a lot of information online in books on what to ask in an interview. And sometimes, you know, people just ask for the sake of asking. But before you ask, just ask yourself, why am I asking this? What information am I trying to get from this person? And how is it going to help this whole process? Use appropriate language. I would say be formal, even though you may be applying maybe in an environment that is not that formal, but for the interview's sake, just be formal. As I mentioned, you know, address people with their titles, look calm, don't be too casual also during the interview. Another important thing is don't appear desperate. You know, there are people, I've been to interviews as an interviewer, and you hear people say, I would do anything. You know, that kind of thing. To them, it might be that, okay, I'm showing that I'm committed, I'm trying to show that I want this job. But to the interviewer, it can be like anything, you know. So after that, make sure that you also thank the interviewer, you thank the company. So it can be thanking them through writing a letter, or you can even call, or even whilst you are there, after the whole thing, no matter how you think you performed, you can just say, thank you so much for this opportunity, and I hope to hear from you soon. And then you exit the interview. So now, here you will see there's a diagram. This is basically what happens to you when you are in any situation. So for now, because we are talking about an interview, it's usually a stressful type of environment. And even the fact that I'm saying it's a stressful environment, I can imagine that it's, I'm stressing your stress at this point in time. So basically what happens is that you will get information. I'll give you an example of when I went for my interview for this current job that I'm doing right now. When I walked into the interview, okay, I walked in, I was formal, and they offered me a seat. I sat down, the interviewers introduced themselves, and then afterwards there was this one gentleman who was just, he looked as if he was not interested in hearing anything that I had to say. That guy didn't have a poker face. He just sighed when I spoke, and he would look away and all of that. So things like that happen. So that's an external event. That's someone outside of myself. So I received that information, and depending on what was going on inside of me, what it meant, what interpretation I made, next thing I knew, I was anxious. I was asking myself so many questions. Why is he not smiling? Other people are smiling. Why is he looking at me like that? Did I say that correctly? And every time when I answer any question, I would look at him for, that validation. And that in itself, it disturbed me a bit, because when I was answering some of the things, I just couldn't even hear what I was saying, because I was so anxious looking at this one individual. And what happens is that sometimes even your body will react. So you may find that now you start shaking, like they said, or you're sweating, your mouth is dry and all of that. So it's important for you, when you go into the interview, prepare yourself emotionally, but also during the interview, have things that will calm you down. Whether it's the perfume that you will use, okay, if I smell like this, it usually calms me down. Or have something that you have in your hand that okay, fine, when I have this in my hand, it will, act as more like an anchor to remind you that, okay, you need to calm down, take a deep breath and answer the question. What are they asking? Calm down. And I do know that there are people who believe that it could even benefit you to say, you know what, I'm feeling anxious. For some people, that works, to say, I'm feeling anxious, and then automatically the anxiety just goes away. Because now, another thing is that sometimes we become anxious because we are trying not to be anxious or not to look anxious. So the more you resist it, the more, or the higher the anxiety goes. So it's important for you to accept that this is what's going on, and also accept that this is normal. You want a job, you are with people who are most likely going to, provide you with that job. So you want this thing, and inside of you, you don't know whether you meet the requirements. You care so much about what they think about you. So that can mess you up a bit. What you can do is just to try and regulate yourself, take a deep breath, and give your best. Just tell yourself that, you know what, if I am the right candidate, I will get the job. If this job is mine, I will get it. Okay. And then in interviews, you'll find that there are tricky questions that employers will pose. And those are questions where, employers may have seen gaps, or there's information that they want to verify, from your CV. Make sure that you answer those questions, in a professional manner. Number one, don't be defensive. If, say, for example, they say, let's say also, we see here that you were fired. What happened? And you become so defensive and all of that. Just be professional about it. Prepare for this question. So it's questions like, tell me about yourself. For someone, tell me about yourself might be, oh yeah, I know myself. I will know what to say in the interview. But you may find that as you are answering, there are certain things that they're looking for. And if you don't prepare for this kind of question, you will find that you will not give them the information that they're looking for. Another thing, things like, why did you leave your previous job? Make sure that you are honest. Have an answer. You know that you were fired. So how are you going to explain it in a way that, number one, you don't lie, but also in a way that shows that you have reflected about the whole process and now you are ready to move on to something better. Things like, for example, what is your range of salary? So if you're someone who's employed, you could bring your pay slip as part of your portfolio to say, okay, this is where I am right now, and I was hoping to grow from what I'm earning right now to earn something better. And I've looked at other, people or other organizations to see how much they are giving people who are looking for this and that job. So yeah, I was looking at this range. And another thing that they might ask you is, what are your future goals? So explain to them that, you know what, I want to grow, I want to learn. I've looked at 1, 2, 3 in your organization, and I've seen, based on my career aspirations, I've seen that this can help me to achieve my goals. Another thing is that give examples of positive results that you will make, to say, okay, I've seen that at UNISA, this is what you are doing. So with the experience that I have from the department, I can teach 1, 2, 3. I think this is where there are gaps, not in an arrogant way, but in a way that shows that you know who you are and you know where you're going. So all in all, you will get a lot of questions, but basically it boils down to 2 questions. Why should we hire you, and why do you want this job? So you need to be able to demonstrate that you have the skills, the expertise, and the abilities that they're looking for. Another thing is that you will need to show that you know what you are getting yourself into. So as you are talking, every now and then you mention something that was in the job description, you mention something that is in the vision, you mention something that is in the values, aligning the company's values to your own values, to say, I've seen that you people say, if it's a government organization, that we need to serve people first. You have the Marketable principle. So from my training in psychology, I've learned 1, 2, 3, 4, and it has given me, I think it has prepared me for this kind of environment. And I understand why it's important for us to put people first. And then after the interview, you follow up with an email. That says a lot about you. You can just say, thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to come and showcase my skills and demonstrate what I can do. And afterwards, I think it's Mr. Bakahani who also mentioned something about evaluating your performance. So you evaluate your performance for your next interview so that you can give a better impression. And also be prepared to move on. We know we've got organizations that are like, your dream place to work at, or this kind of job, this is my dream job. But if you don't get it, be prepared to move on to other things. Apply for other opportunities. Don't keep on, pestering the HR official who was assisting you throughout the whole interviewing process and be like, no, when are you hiring people again? What do I need to improve? Why didn't you hire me? I think I am, the best suited candidate and all of that. No, there's no need for that. Move on to other things and apply for other jobs. Okay, so there's something else that is happening in the world right now, and that's the unusual interview process that you go through without even knowing that you are in an interview. And that is, employers are now looking at your online platforms. They're looking at your social media platforms. So your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your Twitter. I wouldn't say so much your Instagram, but people are looking at your behavior on your social media platforms. There's actually research that reports that many of the UK's top employers are increasingly using social media as a means of finding graduate talent. And again, during the pandemic, almost all employers have now moved their graduate recruitment promotions online. So if you're looking for a job, you may find that people are now advertising on LinkedIn. They're not advertising where they used to advertise before. So it's important for you to also, keep in mind what you post online, because people are looking at what you are saying. If you're employed, I've seen people online, they will say things like, oh my goodness, today is a holiday. Thank God I'm not going to work. That says something about you. You may not be aware. You may be thinking, it's just a minor thing. But to an employer, it says something about you. Things like complaining about your working environment online, those are things that people are looking at and they're like, okay, do we really need this? Because remember, I think it's Millicent who spoke about your brand. So you also have an online brand. People are looking at you, looking at how you interact with people on Twitter. If you're there, you're busy complaining, bashing people, dragging people and all of that. Employers are looking at your behavior. Now, there's a school of thought that says, no, what I do online has nothing to do with my employability. I personally disagree with that, because I know there are people, or there are recruiters who actually look at people's online social media platforms before they invite them to the interview. So they look at how you presenting yourself. And there's also research that says employers are less likely to interview job candidates if they are unable to find information about the person online. That shocked me, but then it is what it is. People are looking at, how you're behaving, what you're saying, and how you're saying it. So remember to represent yourself well. Every time when you post, like in this picture, they say, forget the resume, son. Let's just take a look at what you posted on your Facebook instead. So there you are naked, there you are swearing and all of that. Yes, it's freedom of expression, but you need to think about repercussions of your behavior. So before you post, you need to think, why am I posting this? What am I trying to achieve? And in your mind, just give yourself, a scenario to say, if so-and-so from this company was looking at my profile right now, what would they say? To assist you with opportunities. And then general opportunities, I've put our website, which is the Career Help website. There we post opportunities from across different fields and from different companies. So you will see on our website that we've got internships, we've got learnerships, there's jobs, and there's also resources for people who would like to apply for jobs. And there's also another website, which is sendcv.co.za, where you can get opportunities, especially if you are a graduate. So this is our website. You just click onto our website under Job Seeker. That is where you'll find information on being self-employed, or if you're looking for a job, how do you identify unscrupulous recruitment agencies, job searching sites, dealing with retrenchment and other things that happen, throughout the job seeking and, your employability journey. So these are contact details. I will share them with also Millicent, who can forward to everyone. And yeah, this is Leseho Kunika, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kunika, for that enlightening presentation. I mean, a takeaway from the tips that you shared on doing your research on the company, how to dress properly, paying attention to the environment that you're in, paying attention to how you answer questions and not sounding defensive, but rather objective, remembering that you are here to represent yourself the best way that you know how to, and just preparing for even simple questions like, who are you? Can you tell us who you are? Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was truly enlightening. Our next speaker that I will be calling on to the platform is also a colleague within this space and within this institution. Ms. Tipe is a registered counseling psychologist with a sports psychology major since 2007. She is a senior student counselor from DCCD, which is the Directorate for Career Guidance, Counseling and Development at the University of South Africa, based at the Sunnyside campus within the Eskiam Mphahlele building. She's a PhD candidate at the University of South Africa, looking to complete her PhD at the end of this year.
Today, as already introduced, I'm Lekhoen Onotipe from the Directorate for Career Counseling and Development at the head office next door, Sunnyside campus of the Gauteng region in the registration building at Eskiam Mphahlele. We are talking everything careers today, careers related. My portion is to tell you about marketable careers in South Africa as we speak. Please be aware that this information is retrieved from Business Tech web page. Guys, please make sure that you engage a lot with the website. Please, you have any career related questions, salaries, all those things, you can go to businesstech.co.za. Thank you so much. As we continue the presentation. Now, the following are the most in-demand job skills. South Africa is looking for people who are skilled in these fields. In the descending order, marketing. We lack marketers. Now, when you go and look at this skills that are in demand, also look at the broader aspects of marketing. There is different ways of marketing. I know at the top of my head that right now we are moving into online platforms, into digital platforms. So marketing also is evolving, and they are going to now use more of digital marketing. So don't just think marketing, think digital marketing as well. We are still needing health professionals in the medical aspect, in the medical fields, in the medical faculty, medical and health. Health is a broad subject. Go again and do your research. Use the Business Tech and many other web engines that you can use. There is mental health, there is social health that you can get into, and the medical. There is physiotherapy, there is biokinetics, just to mention a few. There is even veterinary science. So go out there, ask Business Tech if your veterinary science as well is just as popular as medical, as in somebody who's studying MBCHB. Go do your research. You are at the level of university where you can engage with social platforms, social media platforms, with internet engines, and look for this information. We are still on the job skills, architecture and engineering. You know, just at UNISA, even though we don't have architecture, but we have engineering. Engineering on its own, it has different facets. There's civil engineering, there's industrial engineering. Now the new thing that I'm seeing other institutions have already introduced is hydraulic engineering. That is where the future is going. China and Asian countries, other Asian countries and other Western countries, European, are building structures underwater. That is going to be the future as well. So you want to look into all aspects of a field when you go and look at a certain faculty. Manufacturing and assembly. Go and check in South Africa what types of manufacturing. Is it textile? Is it machinery? Is it what type of manufacturing? What do they want people to manufacture the most? Don't go out there and start manufacturing clothes if South Africa needs steel for manufacturing, or South Africa needs manufacturing of timber. Whatever it is that South Africa needs as far as manufacturing and assembling things together, go and find out what that is. Admin and office support. Admin and office support. South Africa is still needing that. Now, office support also is going to change. You can see in the near future, most of us are already working from home. So when we say office support, don't just think office when you are on site. Think virtual office support. What are people doing right now to support the offices? We are doing work. Here is a workshop for you as students. When we are sitting at home, we are doing things virtually. So go and look into what type of support you can offer the office administratively and otherwise virtually. Sales. How can you sell products from home and otherwise? Use both. Right now I think with the pandemic, we are still in dual modalities of doing things. It's probably half and half, but we are saying sooner than we think, probably the old ways of doing things will just dissipate, will just fall away slowly but surely. Go and see how people are doing business online, how people are selling online, and what is selling more online than any other thing, because you need to also check those things to say, what am I wanting to sell that people are ready to sell, to buy online? Because some things we don't like to buy online as individuals, but some things people prefer to buy them online. Please. Finance, we still need people in the finance sector. If you are capacitated to study in the finance sector, please do so. Financial accounting, financial management, business finance. Go see what UNISA is offering within that sphere of business, and go and see what are the finance people doing virtually and like in the old ways. Like I say, business management, different types of business, what is at the top. This is in a nutshell the skills that are in demand, but you want to go and zoom in. We can't help you with everything as a student. You have to leave a little bit for you guys to go and look for yourself, because we are empowering you. IT is a big field. What type of IT? Is it software, coming up with software? Is it being behind the scene doing the technical work? What is it about IT? Please go and figure that out. High in supply, meaning yes, there is a demand, but a lot of people now are starting to occupy in the field of admin and office support. Okay, they are starting to go in there in numbers. Business management, we have people there. Finance, we are seeing a lot of people now starting to study finance. IT, and IT rightfully so. We are all moving technologically. We are all online. The world has long started to move the IT route. We are just a little bit behind. We're probably talking fourth industrial revolution. I'm definitely thinking that China is already thinking fifth industrial revolution, because they always want to be the trendsetters in technology. We know that. So we need to best get you guys clued up for this IT field. Sales, again, people are getting into sales. Education, training, and library. We see people still studying there, but education is starting to be infiltrated, and education is starting to make it difficult for people to study, because I think they are getting enough people who are joining the field. So as you do your research as well, go and see what the Department of Education is saying about education. Why is now all of a sudden that Department of Education is is demanding that people come with pure mathematics from high school to study education. Go and find out all those things. Because it's not just studying education, it's also studying the right type that is filling in the gap in South Africa. You know, do they want you to teach life orientation and English, or do they like those who are doing like your natural sciences more and your physical sciences more, your biological sciences more, life sciences? Go and check. Manufacturing and assembly, we see that people are coming in. Marketing, people are still coming in, but are you doing the old way of marketing, or are you moving the digital marketing route to be more marketable? Cleaning, maintenance, and repair, believe you me, everything that we build needs to be maintained, everything that we build needs to be cleaned, anything that we build as human beings from time to time needs to break and be repaired, please. So people are getting into that. Architecture and engineering, slowly but surely. Building and construction, slowly but surely, people are still getting in there. So these are the types of demand and the types of the people are listening. That's basically this slide is saying to you, people are listening to what is in shortage in South Africa, and they are starting to go into those faculties. 10 occupations right now that are across the sectors that are currently in demand. Occupations, jobs, and their titles. They're looking for agricultural scientists. You don't just go and do agricultural management. They want the science part of it as well. So be careful as you move into agriculture. Food and beverage scientists. When you go and do hospitality, maybe you don't want to get into the not hospitality, man, consumer science. You don't want to go too much into the hospitality and the textile stuff, but you want to look at food and beverage. There's a gap there. Web designing, as you do IT, think about web designing, part of the IT. Multimedia designer, into the IT, software developer into the field of IT, and they are looking for computer network and system engineers. This is now web designer, multimedia designer, this is all IT related, guys. Software developer, computer and network and system engineering. Geographical information system technician. This I've seen a lot of our white counterparts, for lack of a better term, coming to find out more about this, but I don't see our black counterparts coming to find out about this. We need to understand GPS. This is like putting into coordinates, as we have GPSs today, as we have maps, Google Maps. These people are making impact there, giving us direction, and I'm sure they go beyond that. Go and find out what is this all about, and start to see how you can balance it, and with your IT, how you can fill in that gap. Biotechnologists are needed. Registered nurses are needed. Not just go and do nursing and finish as an auxiliary nurse. You need to go and become a registered nurse, and you probably have a little bit of specialty. Are you going to be a midwife? Are you going to be a community nurse? Are you going to be a what's the other thing in nursing? Psychiatric nurse. Go and find out. There is SANC for nursing council. Go to the nursing council, talk to them. What is more in demand? What are you looking for the most in the field of nursing in South Africa? Even though we don't have nursing at entry level at UNISA, but we do have nursing for registered nurse, and start to move and make sure that you prepare yourself if that's what you like. Safety, health, environment, and quality practitioner. That's another field. They call it SHEC practitioners. Okay, go and find out what that is. Those who like safety management, safety management, go and find out, is that a relevant qualification for moving into SHEC, for being a SHEC practitioner. Please guys, if we are here doing the research on your behalf, you need to even take it more seriously, because honestly speaking, we can just sit in their offices and wait for you to come and consult about careers, but we said no, let's not just wait for them to come to us. Let's also go and meet them and start sparking some form of thinking into how are they going to maneuver as soon as they finish and completing their degrees. If we can do that for you, please, we are saying you can go and zoom in and do a little bit more deeper research into the field that you want to zoom in. That's how I'm encouraging you. If you have any questions relating to anything that is said today, not only by myself, but also by my colleagues, just send an email at counseling@unisa.ac.za. Counselors are waiting there to answer your questions. We are really we are saying, please use us. We are begging you guys to use the platform. We are waiting for those emails. We are waiting for your queries that are related to careers, not only queries that are related to registration, application, getting credits, finance. We are a directorate for career counseling. Yes, we will refer you to relevant stakeholders within UNISA and probably help you there and there where we need to also help you. However, we are saying career related queries, we are waiting and we are craving for them. You guys are not using us enough as counselors. You want to use us like you're using student advisors from registration and stuff. We do not, the counseling the directorate was there for mainly career related and mainly for personal counseling related issues. Please take charge. Please use us to the best of your ability. It has been nice for me to be here. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed it. See you on the flip side of inquiries. Have a great year. Have a great time looking and searching for your career. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nonatipe, for that presentation. We'd like to thank you for actually taking the time to create that video, save it, and send it to us. Even though you couldn't join us live, you made sure that we had it in our possession before the actual event, and that really speaks volumes on your work ethic. So thank you so much. Our next speaker is actually a colleague of ours, Mr. Pofolo, who is a tutorial officer who will come onto the platform just to share something very quick and brief with our students. Mr. Pofolo, the floor is yours.
Thank you for I'm just quickly going to share my presentation. My name is Kahisho Pofolo. I'm a tutorial officer in the Johannesburg office. I'm having a presentation that I'm quickly going to go through it. We are actually called the facilitation of learning, which is the tutorial classes. Normally we will have face-to-face classes, which means that students will come in and then we will have tutors will tutor them, but in a face-to-face way. But now recently with the COVID, we moved from face-to-face, we moved to an online platform. Our Gauteng region consists of 5 offices. The offices are Sunnyside, Florida, Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni, and Vaal. Those are our 5 offices. And then our offices, now with the facilitation of learning, provide an academic technology support to the students of the Gauteng region. Now we have moved from face-to-face. We are on an online enrollment where we give online classes to students. We also give it via the Teams platform. This is the modules. This is an example of the modules that we are offering. Currently in the law, we have those modules. We have the ADL 2601, CLA 1501, and so on until SSL 2601. But additionally to the face-to-face, to the online tutoring, we also have academic literacy support. And academic literacy support, we also give it on an online classes basis. We have scheduled times where we send out students via their My Life email. Their My Life email, it's the email support services that UNISA gives to the students. And we support students in the undergraduate, we support postgraduate, and then we also support quantitative literacy. Now, quantitative literacy is a support in modules that require numeracy skills. For an example, your maths and so on. So there are specific tutors who will log in if students have a specific problem in for an example, with maths or numeracy, then that tutor will then assist the students with those modules. The technology support that we are giving in these 5 offices, there we also have computer labs that we call computer laboratories, where students can help to activate their My UNISA and My Life accounts. My UNISA platform is the platform that students can submit their assignments, get relevant information. And the My Life account, it's an email address that UNISA gives you for life. And that's why we call it the My Life account. So with the recent times, we now send emails to the My Life account. That's how we support students. And students can submit their assignments via My UNISA, but the communication part we send to My Life. And in the process, the facilitators who are working in the labs, or what we call the DLAs, they support with the guidance of the signature modules as well. And basically, that's the facilitation of learning. This is our contact details. Our contact details for the DLAs, Digital Learning Advisors. In Ekurhuleni, we have Mr. Ramdul. In Florida, we have Mr. De Beer. And then in Johannesburg, we have Mr. Limau. And in Sunnyside, we have Mr. Malaudzi. And in Val, we have Mr. Mukasi. Now, these services that we are talking about, all the services that I've mentioned, your academic literacy, your tutoring, online via Teams, all the services are for free. That's what UNISA offers to the students. You can access the services through the My Life or the My UNISA platform. The correspondence of the My Life ensure that the My Life account is active. So we encourage students, because the My Life account, it's an account that students do not normally use, but with this COVID, we encourage students to open their My Life accounts. If you go into the UNISA website, you can open the My Life account. And on the My Life account, there is also a link where students can link their My Life account with their personal email, which means that if an email is sent to the My Life, say UNISA sends an email to the My Life account, then the students will have a notification in their personal email to say that, hey, listen, you have an email in the My Life account. Please go and check on the My Life account. So we also encourage students to do that so that they can link the two, because you have maybe your Gmails or whatever email you have at work and so on, that you frequently visit or that you visit on a daily basis. Then the notification from the My Life will also come in. So then you know that my studies also come first. This is the contact details for the regional academic coordinators, which are working in the facilitation of learning, or tutorials as we know it. In Ekurhuleni, we have Mr. Maile. In Florida, we have Mr. Pasani. In Johannesburg, we have Ms. Makola and Mr. Nematandane. And in Sunnyside, we have Ms. Pressman and Ms. Tifo. And then in Val, we have Ms. Ngubeni. And that's basically my presentation. And I thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pofolo, for sharing that information. I also kindly ask that in your presentation, you shared a lot of information regarding contact details for student support. So please kindly share your presentation with our students via the chat box, or you can share it with the counseling unit so that we can distribute it, because I mean, taking into consideration the crazy times that we're living in, students are not allowed to physically come or go to their nearest campuses. So when there is contact information that is shared with them, it makes their study journey a bit better, because then there is somebody that they can contact regarding their studies or regarding challenges that they are experiencing.
Thank you very much. I'll do so.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to take a moment to thank all of our speakers for the day. You are champions of life for coming onto this platform, volunteering your time, because this is a community engagement. This is an outreach. So people who come on to this platform are volunteering their time to share with our students, to share with our community members. It is truly humbling to see, be aware of your busy schedules, be aware of the crazy times that we live in, and you still choose to prioritize and honor our invitations. We truly would like to thank you. We are still running behind time, but I would like to note just 2 hands before we officially close our event. 2 hands of people who would like to ask questions. Any of our attendees? Any 2 hands, any questions that are readily available? I'm willing to give the platform.
Thank you very much. My question is about career change. For me, I was in media and now I've just graduated in law. I just want to know, because I've been in media for the past 20 years, when I put my CV, when I write my CV, do I put all that information that my previous experience, or I just start with where I am at? Because it's always said that do not put information that is not relevant, because now I'm looking for new opportunities in a different field altogether. Should I include all that information or should I discard it? But if I discard it, does it mean that I was not existing for the past 20 years of my life? Thank you.
I see Ms. Gwinika. You may take the question.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I would recommend that when you're looking at posts, it's important for you to identify the skills that they're looking for. So now you mentioned, if I understand you correctly, you said you are moving from one industry to another. So what you might do is that look at how those skills are transferred from one organization to another, and you can put in what you were doing for the past 20 years, because like you're saying, it might appear as if you haven't been doing anything for the past 20 years. But again, make use of your motivation letter to explain how the experience you acquired over those 20 years will help you now in this new position. So it's about how you put your information, how you sort of sell yourself at that particular point in time, but more importantly, understanding that you should have transferable skills, because it's the same as even when you're applying in the same industry. For every job you apply for, you need to customize your CV for that particular post. So it's about how you put the information, what you deem to be important, and also taking advantage of your portfolio to say, this is how I will demonstrate if they need further information on what I've been doing for the past 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gwinika, for attending to that question. I'm going to take one last hand.
My question is for the third speaker of the day, and I'm trying to see how we can balance our career goal expectation during interview. Okay, for example, I have expectations of where I wish to work and how they can help me in advancing my career, and I come for an interview. And how do I learn to balance that so that I don't become overly choosy and still remain out of job? That's my question.
So what I heard you, if that is what you meant, is that you are looking for job opportunities, but then you want to make sure that you don't find yourself in work environments that do not meet your expectation, but at the same time, you don't want to find yourself looking at job opportunities and pushing them away because your expectations are a bit higher.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
How you do that is that, of course, as individuals, like in your case, I don't know you, you might be coming from different levels of work experience. And that level of work experience might sort of make you, I'm giving a scenario. There's this person who has been a teacher by experience, and they happen to get experience in marketing. And in marketing, they get exposed to customer service and all that. And that you can understand, it builds their confidence and they feel, I'm more confident. But at the back of their mind, they might disregard some of other expertise which the environment of teaching might be having, and they might think somehow teachers should behave in a way that a person in customer service should behave. I would give you an example. In customer service, the most important thing is that you must strike that customer and win a sale. And communication there is quite vibrant and people are so fast and all that. But maybe in the education field, you are more empathetic to the learner and you must take consideration of the parents, and things should be done with more consideration and slow. So if in your case, Miracle, you are looking for that type of a job at the workplace of education, it means you should come to their level. If you've got experience in education and both in marketing, try to present yourself in a way that you will win their heart, but at the same time, slowly filter in issues of customer service at that school. If maybe the school is not really serious about looking after their parents and all that, come in slowly and introduce those aspects. Maybe organize a presentation, and the teachers or the management of the school or even the principal will start to see your expertise in customer service, and they would utilize you at that school with that customer service background, but in an education environment. I don't know if I matched your example or I've matched your question with my example.
Okay. To some extent, it's quite gave me some insight to some extent. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Ms. Maleko, for attending to that question, and thank you so much, Mr. Miracle, for asking the question. Now, colleagues, I'm about to call on our last speaker of the day who will be giving us the closing. We would just kindly like to thank everybody who came onto the platform today, attended the event, contributed, even by simply just answering a question, asking a question, sharing tips, or even simply just by attending. Thank you so much. The counseling unit prides itself at being the glue and the people that bridge the gap between the community and the institution. And during these times, we try our very best to have programs that will see us assisting our students in every possible way. Our last speaker of the day, our colleague and superior, Mr. Kagiso Mekwa, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you so much for the great session that we had this morning. And then thank you very much to our attendees and our students, especially because this is for you. And then if you don't utilize these opportunities, you find yourself lagging behind. I just want to thank all our speakers. Since the first speaker, Ms. Kwinika, Ms. Nonotipe, Mr. Pofolo, and all our speakers, Mr. Makahani, for welcoming and breaking the ground for us that this is our event, this is our session, and then we came here to learn. I believe students will be forwarding us now with questions and queries and taking this session very seriously and making a follow-up. The issues of the use of technology has been emphasized, that watch out what you post. Yes, your outside life might reflect the real person that you are. they normally say what you do in secret, that's the real you. So be careful what you do out there when no one is watching, because that might show us who you are, and then we might not hire you, or you might not be invited for an interview because here you are bashing your own company and your colleagues online. So with that said, just want to thank the organizers, the people behind the scenes, Ms. Lala, Ms. Makawe, Ms. Nyamakazi, Mr. May, and everyone else out there, my colleagues in all the 5 centers of UNISA. I just want to thank you. And I'm saying to our students, make this a treasure. Don't just hear it. They said the video will be edited and sent to you on a link. You can use it, share it with your friends. You can contact the speakers that presented, and then make sure that you don't find yourself jobless. If you are not looking for a job, create job for others. You can also be your own resource yourself. So look after yourselves during these COVID times. Do not lose focus of your studies. Use your inborn talents to create jobs or to look for jobs. Just be you and do the best that you can. Thank you so much to the program directors and everyone, Ms. Matlombe, and everyone else there, and have a blessed day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Michael, for that warm and wonderful closing. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our event. From me, your host, and the wonderful Sunnyside Counseling team that made sure that everybody was here today and everything ran smoothly. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We may now leave the platform.